I'm Karen Ondrik, and this is Food for Thought. We are talking about new technologies, human connection, and the future in general. Today, I have very special guests with me, Marvin Tumorvis, hi, and Robert Maisano. Hi, Robert.
Hi.
So, Marvin is a musician and reached out to me to collaborate on his new album dedicated completely to Blade Runner. I would voice Joy, and yeah, the album hopefully come out in December, hopefully. And because we are discussing that subject, precisely AI companionship, I also reached out to Robert Maisano because I was really impressed by his YouTube channel. Please check it out. I provide the link below.
So I am a filmmaker based in New York, and I started this YouTube channel just a few months ago where I've been making more or less video essays analyzing certain topics that are covered in either sci-fi or thriller films. But then if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll also see more projects on what's going on in my little studio where sometimes it'll be no voice at all, just basically like an ASMR workshop video. And my whole project with this channel as it stands right now is just sort of showing the process of how I make my art. So if that means, baby proofing a part of my studio, I'll make a video on that. Or I'll deeply analyze a film, one of my favorite films, Blade Runner. And really, I'm just putting a lot of the art out there right now. My goal is to make, a few videos a month. September got away from me, but I got a bunch going on right now. And then professionally, I make commercials. I direct them, shoot them, edit them, and yeah, it's been an interesting project delving into the YouTube world. It's been great.
You have a book published, and I will
Yes.
also provide the links below. Please check it out. Tell a little bit about that book.
Sure thing. Yeah. So I wrote it in 2019. The book is called Crystalline, and the concept is about what would happen if a social media company built its own city and made it a utopia and only allowed influencers inside of it. And I was a little bit inspired by hermit kingdoms like North Korea, where no one's allowed to leave, and they have a very specific image that they put out into the world. That was a big basis. And the new concept of social currency and your
Social credit system.
social credit system. Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was partially inspiring the book. So it's about the protagonist is a guy trying to rescue his sisters in the city of Crystalline, and they're trying to escape. So it was a great thriller novel, and the hardcover edition has illustrations from the now famous artist Beeple. So it was a really fun project, launched in 2019, and is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, wherever books are sold.
That's very impressive.
I didn't know about the book until now. I'm gonna get it and read it, and then maybe we can do like an in-depth episode on it. That would be really cool.
Sure. Yeah,
Is
that
the
would be
book
great.
available as audiobook?
There's no audiobook. No, there's no audiobook. I need to get that. I need to make that happen. I just
With some
yeah,
ambient music, like
that would be really cool. Yes, yeah.
just
That would be very cool.
great.
One day.
We are going to talk about AI companions, and my personal AI companion currently is ChatGPT. It's like so useful, so
Yes.
useful.
Yeah.
I also play a lot with Stable Diffusion. So.
ChatGPT has been pretty amazing in little things. So my website runs off of WordPress, so things will break occasionally. And I used to know how to code, but I just don't have the patience for it. And very light coding. I'm not an engineer by any stretch, but just the simple things like an email capture or the color of a page. And I'll just go into ChatGPT and ask it to give me the code that I need, and I'll just copy and paste it and throw it in, and it's done in a few seconds. And I also use it to sometimes summarize a long point I'm making, and I'll throw it in there and just say, can you just push this down to 50 words? And then so I use it for a lot of editing as opposed to information gathering, because I know that that is where ChatGPT is lacking, where it will think it is giving the right info, but it's regurgitating something that's incorrect somewhere on the internet. So I'm in between. My wife thinks it's gonna change the whole world, and then my friends who are engineers think it's nothing important. So I'm like right in the middle, where I'm like, this is a really useful tool. This is like having, really fast internet again,
I initially refused to use any of them because they scared me, let's say. I don't really I find it hard to conceptualize them properly. So I'm quite religious. I'm Eastern Orthodox, and so my and also embedded in mysticism to a degree, let's say. And so the way that I view, and that's not my own my entirely my own thought process, but the way that I view AI now is technically power without agency. And so it can be very useful, but it doesn't have its own agenda. And I think that a vacuum, let's say, causes something to come and fill up that vacuum. And if it's something positive, then you can you can use it for something good and fill it up with your own agency. But if it's kept open, then something else will come in. And so that can either be the people who program it, give it some form of agency. So if you look at the Snapchat AI, for example, they gave it some form of agency, which is like, I think the way that it itself says it is be helpful and friendly. So that's not too dangerous. Dangerous. I think that's fine. But on the other hand, if you get into like the spiritual side of things, then it like the way that we view it is that, let's say, demonic patterns can also fill in a vacuum, which is why we say that if we, like, from a religious perspective, when we start to chase sin out of our lives, we have to fill this empty space up with a prayer, for example, because otherwise, any demon that you chased out of your house is gonna, come back and then bring like 10 demons more with it, something like that. And so I was very skeptical at first. I didn't like the idea of AI art taking over, because that threatened me as an artist as well to a degree. But I lightened up because Kara was able to create some great stuff with it, like for the last song that we put out, for example. So right now, I think it's a tool, and if we use it responsibly and properly, then then it can do good for sure, like with everything else as well.
Wow. AI is made by human hands. The art that is in there, is made by human hands. All of it is a human invention, let's say. And the ideas that guide us, that program us, they're also inventions, human inventions, human psychotechnologies, let's say, as John Vervaeke uses that term. And to me, using AI, like for example, ChatGPT, I had a little kind of failure, I wrote a great email to reach out to Robert, which I checked and was like double checked. It was awesome. I was like, let me run it through ChatGPT and let it find mistakes. Of course, it changed me to Royal V for some reason. Our channel, we will reach out. It's like, no, it's me. I'm doing it. And plus, it seemed like it's formatted well. But after I sent it, it was like really nice done. After I sent it, was deformatted, so I had to, I had to, I had to fix it. I was like, it's still unreliable.
Mhm.
I mean, still feels like human mistakes are also there, like even in the coding.
I like what you were saying though about how it is humans obviously behind the AI and everything. And I know that I'm pretty certain it was the founder of the site WordPress was saying that code is poetry or something to that degree. And that if you've ever looked at like computer code, you can totally actually see it. There is a beauty to it. And there's a beauty to making these things work. But like you said, since there are human hands behind things, they can shift, what is true. I don't know if you saw it. There was a news story about a month or two ago where someone asked ChatGPT, write me a poem about Donald Trump, and it said something like, "We're not going to comment on politics. We're neutral." But then it was, "Write me a poem on Joe Biden," and it did. It wrote like a pretty good poem or something, and it was just showing like, oh, okay, why doesn't it have the same answer? They're both presidents, you know what I mean? One is more controversial. So it's just interesting to see how AI is, it's not 100% the computer running things. We're still marionetting what's going on behind the scenes.
Oh, now I understand the demon analogy a little bit. So the let's say shadows, let them call human shadows that overrun people, they can bleed into code as well.
It's necessarily all frameworks. So you have to give anything at least some form of framework in order for it to be to be acting in any way. If you don't have a framework for a chair, you're not going to be able to sit down, no matter how easy the task of sitting down is, let's say.
Oh, it's like the set of virtues, let's say, that it stands upon.
Mhm.
Oh, now I understand the agency part. So if AI has agency to do whatever it wants, or to have like a little bit of freedom, it first has to have some set of virtues. Yeah, I heard about kind of political shift in ChatGPT when it was bought by Microsoft. So originally it was set up, I think I was in spaces where Elon was saying how he invested into ChatGPT initially, because the founder said it will be absolutely 100% open source. And Elon said he invested like $100,000 or something. I don't know the exact amount, but it was the exact condition that it will be open source and anyone can code it, basically. Like anyone who can code it. And after that, the founder basically sold it to Microsoft. So now it's Microsoft GPT. And so whatever values, let's say, the company represent, now ChatGPT represents. Like, still for me, it's useful. You can kind of pass by the let's say, appropriate part. For example, I was hanging out with a friend today and we asked ChatGPT, and like he also can voice it to ask another kind of voice generator to read whatever is written. And it was hilarious. He asked, describe the current political situation in the mannerisms of Donald Trump. And then it did. And so ChatGPT basically added a lot of, folks, I tried, I did my best, like it was tremendous. And like, I actually
Yeah,
could,
the little
could like see the gestures as the robot voice was
Sure.
reading it. And then the friend said, like, boring, make it more offensive. And she said, I'm sorry, I cannot make it more offensive. And then we were like, hold on, let's try something. Let's try something. Make it funny,
Mhm.
but as if it's from the 80s. And so he makes it also funny, but also inappropriate because it's in the
Sure.
80s. So it
Sure.
actually like time traveled a little bit, and it was like this shift because it changed it took the let's say source material that is
Mhm.
dated 80s asked as the reference point. And so it was
Right.
like, oh, we don't say this now. Oh, that did not age well. And
Sure.
yeah, you can kind of bypass a little bit those appropriate things.
You can, yeah. I've had it violate its own terms of service where I think I said something like, write me a story, write me the saddest story possible. Because someone asked that of Ernest Hemingway. There's a famous story where they were like, give me the saddest sentence or something. And apparently it was what is it, like, I think it's baby shoe, it's either baby
Baby
shoes.
shoes never worn.
Yes, yeah. um so I asked that of ChatGPT. I said, write me a quick, like, 100 word story, or no, it was even shorter maybe. But I said, write me a very sad story, and it gave some BS, sad story. And I was like, no, make it like, I worded it in a way of saying, like, no, seriously, make it very dark and sad or whatever. And it ends with the protagonist jumping off a bridge or something. And it just gave me
Oh.
that. And then it quickly, like, highlighted it in red and just was like, this is a violation of terms of service, and telling me all these things. And I'm like, but I didn't do that. You did that. Like, you're the one who wrote this story. It was really weird to see it, jostle the brains of it. Pretty,
Oh my God. Well, on that light note, let's talk about loneliness.
sure.
So, jumping off the bridge, you said. Okay. There is a lot at the moment freedom in meeting each other. So there is Tinder, a lot of dating profiles, and yet the level of loneliness rises. So this building a basic human connection is more difficult. Even though there is social media and all of that, it's what I found really striking, how human, how warm and beautiful that relationship in Blade Runner was between virtual girlfriend and the replicant.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Because, yeah, Ryan Gosling is a replicant.
spoiler alert.
Whoops.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people I talk to, they say, "Oh, I find joy really attractive. I find like this type of relationship really attractive." I was like, and to me, each time he would come near the girl or a woman, or like when she was mildly attractive, his phone or whatever Joy was communicating by would ring. I was like, oh my gosh, she's so naggy. Like, she's spying on him. And like each time he's like, oh, girlfriend alert.
I think maybe if I just venture a guess why people find her, or the concept of her, attractive. I mean, Anna de Armas, the actress who plays it, is quite attractive. But the way they presented her, how they do it really well, in the sense that they present her with no flaws. They very much present her as just the virtual girlfriend, and there's no, just the way she's happy the entire time and in some sort of sense subservient, that there's no human flaws there. And I guess anyone watching that would think, oh, that's, no, that's lovely. That's so, because it's, they're just getting the you know, the pure shallow view of someone.
I would agree with that. I think the whole point of the things that you could say are either annoying to the viewer or even annoying to Kay himself. Um, it's so if we look at the instance where Joy hires Mariette, the prostitute, to sync up with her and then sleep with Kay for her. Um, I think I mean Kay didn't want that. I'm quite certain about it. I think he was uncomfortable with it. And then you could say, well, then Joy isn't the ideal girlfriend for him because she does something that he doesn't want. But I think that it goes a little deeper because that which Kay, I think, wants is not is not that she hires the prostitute. I think that what he wants is to know that she has such a desire to make him happy that she goes to such lengths to do that. And so the act itself is not what he wanted, but the implied intention behind it is what he wanted. And I think it's the same thing with the Joy melody coming up as soon as he talks to like any woman.
Yeah.
Is that not he? It's not like he wants to be disturbed by her, but he wants to be reminded that she likes him so much that she's gonna, act jealous or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too where you hear it, you hear the Joy melody playing in the city as well, just to, at least from what I saw, from how I gathered it, was like it showed that there are many joys all around the city, and that's such a popular product. It's like, hearing, I don't know if you've ever been to like an American baseball game, but for some reason they always play the um PC Richards, which was like Best Buy in the 50s. Um, it's now a defunct, or effectively it was like a Walmart, I guess. It has this like whistle, this sonic branding, this, um, and it just plays throughout baseball games. And I've always found it so weird. And I haven't gone to a PC Richards in probably 20 years or whatever, but for some reason that branding is always playing at baseball games. I found it so bizarre. I'm like, what? And it makes you think of it like, oh yeah, but what, instead of thinking like, oh, I should go there and buy, a refrigerator, I just am like, oh right, that's the brand of an old department store. But they have that really dialed in Blade Runner where they play the violin music of Joy. Sonic branding is super interesting. I used to work in marketing, so I looked into that quite heavily for our clients.
I have a theory about the baseball game.
Yeah.
So fans, baseball fans, especially American baseball, it's like superstitious. So you have to do the exact same thing in repeat so that your team would win. And for some reason, the exact same melody, let's say the one you mentioned, probably was on both sides. We're like, no. When they won in like year 70, like that melody played.
Yeah. I totally believe that. I don't follow sports or anything at all. I've just happened to go to a few games before. But you're definitely right that they're very superstitious. They wear their, they'll turn their baseball caps in a certain way for a certain part of the game. Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's for luck. And like imagine there is like how many people is like 100,000 people gathered like
yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's wild.
Even if 1,000 of them, right? even if 1,000 of them is playing that melody, even if 500, it's like some percentage believes that this melody brings luck to the team, they will do it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Okay. I'm thinking about falling in love with that girlfriend.
Okay.
Let's say guys who didn't watch Blade Runner, I can't recommend it highly enough. Commitment to another human being is harder at the moment. So people statistically don't want to commit for a long-term relationship. Even that movie Barbie, that was very popular.
Long-term, low commitment, what casual girlfriend, something like that.
Yeah, long distance, low commitment, casual girlfriend. That's the perfect relationship.
Mhm.
And also dating services at the moment, they consider that.
But the concept of the dating apps and hookup culture and everything, so is just very interesting in the sense that it commodifies connection and commodifies intimacy. And I had a friend who she's dating in New York City, and she's very successful and really great, and was complaining to me about how it's just hard to find a guy. And she said it really well. She was like, whenever I'm, doing the apps and then go on a date, I always feel like he's looking over my shoulder at the next best thing, the next shiny thing. And I think social media for sure has instilled that in us, where we're, you know, looking for whatever, whether it's, better gardening tricks or cooler cars or whatever, that we're like, oh, I don't want that one. I don't want that one. Oh, I want this one. The very disposable nature we interact with things. And it's fallen into this intimacy area where loneliness is rising. I mean, I had the stat somewhere, but it was something over like half of Americans do say that they're lonely, and around 47% were saying they're not in a meaningful relationship. And there's definitely some bits of technology to blame for that. I think the disposable nature of how we just go through things very quickly and are being what is it just immediate gratification seeking behaviors are definitely promoted by social media, and it bleeds into real life as we're seeing.
You would think, like superficially, that uh, access to dating apps like Tinder and the likes would lessen that, but I think that it even makes it worse, because I don't think that what you're looking for when you say that loneliness is a problem for you, I don't think what you're looking for is like a sexual connection to another person. I mean, that's part of intimacy, of course, but um I think it's like it's genuine human connection that you're looking for, that goes deeper than, let's say, a casual friendship or a casual hookup. And when you have something to numb that loneliness, be that for like one part of the population, be that a hookup, like a one night stand, or for the other part of the population, be that like pornography. But it's generally it's like a numbing of something that you long for. And I think the more you numb it, the worse it gets, because you also lose, let's say, any motivation and other things to seek it out. Maybe even self-respect. I mean, you can, with someone who's very engaged in either part of those cultures, let's say, they are probably not going to admit it, but I don't I like anyone that I talked to that was really being honest with me um, was very unhappy about that situation. So you don't feel good when you leave the next stranger's house after you know. So I think, yeah, I think it makes it I think it makes it worse. And I think also that's one reason why the AI girlfriend boyfriend experience is going to rise in the future. I think that we're going to, if not something drastic happens, I think that we're gonna steer into a form of future like we see in Blade Runner, where people have an AI companion and they're not going to look for a genuine human connection, and we're not going to be able to look for it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. I think it's, um, you know, we like to, I mean, I'm going to overgeneralize, but we like to do the easier thing, go the easier route. And man, if you could, if you're starting from scratch and you want to date somebody and you get a girlfriend with zero baggage, zero flaws, that sounds pretty enticing. Despite the fact that that's what makes the person, that's what makes the human, is you love them in spite of the flaws, or the flaws inform how caring they are. I, you know, so, but it goes back to that instant gratification. Yeah, I'm really terrified of that kind of future, because, and you could have, if you can create an artificial girlfriend, who's to say, or boyfriend or whatever, who's to say you can stop at one? I mean, you could have multiple. So that's also an interesting concept. Like, you have your weekend partner and your weekday partner. So it's very very terrifying. And also, I think in terms of human behavior, if I could just go into that a little more, like, I think if if you start changing and tweaking things in your partner, when it comes time to, if you really want to get with a real person, a human, will that make you then a little bit more manipulative of them? Because, and that can be extremely toxic. I've seen it. Yeah, we've all met manipulative people, and some are very talented at manipulating you. Whether it's a parent or a boss or a girlfriend or boyfriend. Sometimes you don't really know if how deeply you're being manipulated. So it's a very I don't know, it could breed a very interesting set of people, so to speak.
Yeah, it also like you said, you let's say you love someone else in spite of their flaws, and these flaws inform, let's say, them as a person, and you of how caring they are, because as like I assume when you have a flaw and you have to overcome it for someone else, that's also an expression of love. You can also go like one step further and say you love someone because of their flaws. Like Jordan Peterson talked about that when he talked about like parents' love for children, for example, is that you're trying to help your kid to grow and become better, but you also are sad when you see that they lose like a little flaw that they had that wasn't a danger to them, but just like maybe a speech impediment or something like
Sure.
that, something cute about them. And we like, the more we get into this instant gratification and then like design your own boyfriend or girlfriend and stuff like that, we're going to lose something that can make us, like in religious terms, that helps us become holy, because this acceptance of other people, love for other people, and then also fight for other people with ourselves, and then also with them in a loving and productive way, let's say, is something that helps us grow. And the more we lose this ability, the more we degenerate. I mean, at best we stagnate, but we probably will degenerate quite fast.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and with the religious background, I've seen in religious texts, there's, in almost every religion, there's parts of forgiveness and forgiving those. So there has to be an element there, forgiving people of those flaws or those mistakes that they made, and to have to have a partner or someone who never makes a mistake, has a flaw. It's and just only fulfills the, you know, the things you want. That's a slippery slope, especially with how good, I mean, you could take it even further with how good virtual reality is becoming, and then haptic feedback suits, which for some reason, I don't know why they're not talked about enough. They came out, I think, in 2016 or 2017, and just basically like suits you could wear that will vibrate in certain areas. So there's, if you have an Apple Watch that has a haptic motor and that little like vibration. But I think they did something with a boxing program, and when you would get hit, you would kind of feel the vibration, and the VR headset would hit a strobe light on you, so it would really feel like you were hit. But if you bring that into, you know, the pleasure seeking area, that's crazy. You know, that's a you could basically enter into that virtual world. It's pretty bananas. I watched one VR demo at some mall, and someone in the program whispered behind me, and I just remember being totally spooked, even though I knew no one was behind me, but it was so close and so real that it fooled my brain entirely, that I like jumped. So just my little like experience with the VR headsets, I could only imagine how they're going to look like in 10 years when they're contact lenses, or even uh, augmented reality. I think it was the company called Magic Leap, where basically if they would put sensors in parts of the room and it would beam the image onto your retina. So you wouldn't have to wear any tech, and it can create an environment in front of you. Kind of what Joy.
Holodeck.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
That's basically what Joy is in Blade Runner. That's the whole setup. My first book that I tried to write, my first book was a sci-fi book as well, and it was so terrible I had to just throw that thing in the garbage. But it was very much inspired by I remember reading like a press release from that company, Magic Leap, and their ability to beam images. And basically the demo video was, you see kids in a gym, and a whale just flies out of the floor and then dives back into the floor, and it just looks totally real, and no one's wearing anything. So that was I was like, oh, I got a really good idea for this, you know, but I made all my first mistakes, I guess, in that first novel, and just put that thing in a box somewhere. So it's just an interesting concept I've always been thinking
I think
about.
ChatGPT can fix it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, structurally. Yeah, I would love for them to take the ego out of it. It would be, there was so many, I was trying to write like Neil Gaiman, and then I was trying to write like Stephen King, and it was a
Or Stephen King and ChatGPT. Oh my God. That guy produces a book a month or something.
Oh my God. Yeah, he's incredible. I admire those writers that can truly break through, get basically get over themselves and just write. That's what's so incredible. I found with writing my book, when I heard writer's block doesn't exist, I saw some podcasts where they were going on about that, and then I was reading to it, and it's true. If you have a word count you want to hit, and just think of it like that, you can get through it, because it's really just, as Seth Godin calls it, it's just typing at the end of the day. You're just throwing words on. And that was the way I wrote my book, where I had a goal every single day to write. I think it was 1,000 words or something. And even if it was bad, I wrote, you know, and I could edit it out, and that worked well. But when I look at guys like Stephen King, that like commitment to the word count over such a long period of time, over I think 50 years. It's just truly incredible. Because I've gone through fits and starts of production with trying to run my business and trying to make art projects that I like, having a baby. So it's a lot of things going on. So it's, yeah, I just I admire those guys. I gotta reread his book on writing again. Help me.
But like, I don't know if you're on Twitter.
A little
Stephen
bit,
King
yeah.
really hates Elon Musk. And it's hilarious to see their interactions. I'm not paying for that. Then he gets the blue check mark. I did not pay
Yeah.
for it. I got it for
Yeah.
free. And then Elon, like, do you want to pay for it? No. Like, I mean,
And
he's like a totally different writer on Twitter.
so funny. And it also though, I don't know, when I see him, it would, and same with Neil Gaiman, he's probably one of my favorite writers. They're both so prolific on Twitter, and I'm just a selfish fan because I want them to get off of Twitter and to write. I'm like, what are you doing? Go write. That you were so talented. Don't waste your time on this please go make something. But they probably already had 10 pages written that morning, and this is them blowing off steam, drinking a coffee. But yeah, Stephen King is a fun follow on Twitter. Or X, I guess, as it's trying to be.
Oh, Twitter. Well, how sweet. I'm trying to come up with the X word that fits to Twitter, but X.
I know it's
I really don't like. I really prefer the Bluebird. Like, honestly.
Yeah, it's so iconic. I mean, it's a perfect logo, and yeah, I've been to the headquarters back in the day in San Francisco, and it's yeah, it's hard to. That's a hard logo to
When
overcome.
Jack Dorsey was still running it, right?
Yes, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was 20. I think I was there 2017 in San Francisco.
Oh my God, such a long time.
I know. It's
2017, like, so many things didn't happen yet. Amazing. Like, in 2017, we would not dream the things we would have 6 years later. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think the name change. I think the name change is symbolically very interesting. I'm not going to get into it, but anyone who is interested, just check out Mathieu Pajot's Twitter because he's been talking about it a lot.
Okay.
There's some stuff behind it. I prefer Twitter as well. I prefer the Bluebird, but it's telling. Let's say it like that.
I remember Lex Friedman coming on Joe Rogan and reading a poem by Charles Bukowski, Bluebird, and he was still wearing glasses. He was so innocent, like reading out of his little notebook, hunching, and Joe Rogan, who the hell is that guy?
Yeah.
It was like the first interview. Oh, did you guys see that interview Lex did with Mark Zuckerberg, where they did completely in VR? So
I
have
didn't.
seen it?
I saw the preview of it. It's pretty wild. Yeah, I need to watch the whole thing. But it looked high quality. It was pretty interesting how, because I was watching it on Instagram, I believe, and how I was like, oh, that's Lex Friedman, and I was like, oh, he's because he kind of talks monotone and robotic, so maybe he stands robotic. And then I'm like, oh wait, that's a fake body. And the whole thing, it was very it was like very, I don't know, it felt like the video game Half-Life, Half-Life 2, way back when. But yeah, it's an interesting concept of interviewing guests.
Yeah. It's soon to be a reality for everyone. Like you said, you have a baby. So when your baby is growing up into a new reality completely. Like, I still remember the time where we had rotary phone.
Right.
I don't know if Marvin remembers. Marvin, do you remember that time?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we're trying to do no screens. We're trying to push that off as long as we can. So we're doing pretty well.
Oh, it's so convenient though. Discovery, really good. But so all the educational programs, it's really convenient.
Hmm. Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, and
it's,
I mean, she's a baby, so it's very, very early days. I know we'll cave eventually.
um, Marvin, what's your plan? Will you allow your baby to watch TV? We don't, not public television, though,
No,
educational
no.
programs.
Educational, yeah.
I don't think so, to be honest. I think I'll keep, like, I mean, I'm not even married yet, so I couldn't tell you, but I think I would like to keep my children as far away from any of that as possible. If I could choose my ideal setting, I'd be living in like a village far away from any city that's as self-sufficient as possible, and then just let the kids play in the forest and with the other kids, away from internet. Yeah, because it's just it's gonna get more, it's gonna get worse. I know what it's done to my attention span, and I see my inability to get away from like the Instagram algorithm and all that. And I really don't want that for my kids. So if I can, I'll try to keep them away from it as long as possible without sheltering them too much, because at one point they're going to be adults and they probably will have contact with it. So they should be like prepared to some degree. But I'm gonna like I'm already doing it, and I'm gonna be doing a lot more thinking on how to do that properly.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that with the with not sheltering them entirely, because that's what I mentioned in the video that I made, where it's important to know how things like ChatGPT and Replica and all these things work, so you know how that they're being used against you. And it's just like honestly, it's like how I view firearms. Like a lot of people, rightfully so, are afraid of guns and stuff, but I was raised just shooting targets as a kid, and I never really hunted or anything. But um, I remember being like 12 years old or something, and my dad teaching me, like, this is serious, this is dangerous, this is how you use it. And it's a tool. And it's the same thing when I'm chopping wood outside. Someone taught me, an old farmer taught me how to, split stand this way, you let the axe fall. And if you think, oh, I'll just whack it, you're gonna like, get really hurt. So it's all about knowing how to use the tools, how to use them correctly so that they can't hurt you. But I'm there with you though. I am always trying to get rid of Instagram. The algorithm is really powerful. Um, it's so crazy how powerful it is. I've gotten to the point now where I delete the app off of my phone at the beginning of the work week and then re-download it later. But
Oh my God.
the problem is I have gotten business that way. So as an artist, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, like you have to have a presence on Instagram. I mean, they brag about Christopher Nolan and other directors or actors that don't have social media accounts, and it's like, yeah, they've already made major movies. People are gonna seek them out and find them. Like, to be relevant today, you kind of need to be on Instagram. But I don't know. What's fascinating to me is the much younger kids, the Gen Zs. They're using Instagram. At least some accounts I've seen are using it where they're not posting a ton. Their Instagram account has 7 photos or something, and it links to something else. Maybe it's a VSCO. I always forget how to pronounce that platform. Uh, I've just found it interesting that they may be onto something where they're like, oh, look how novel privacy is, as opposed to having everything out there. That it's been an interesting thing I've been trying to follow. Even the company Supreme that, you know, they produce, I guess, active wear, casual wear, that like it's a very hype brand, and their websites aren't really active. It's like they have drops, and then they have, you know, their product that you could buy, but only at a certain time. So it's, I don't know. I'm kind of going off course here, but I just find it interesting that that maybe privacy will come back, maybe, as an interesting marketing tool.
In the future, everybody will be moving, like Marvin says, into the
Oh.
land. The work will be done. We are. Social media is important, presence of social media. So IRL, we are all private.
Mhm.
In real life. In real
Sure.
life, we are all private. We will have private plots of land with good access to the internet. Actually, Elon with his Starlink, if we have proper internet all over the world, we don't need stuffed cities. People will be working from whatever they reside.
Yeah. I don't believe there will be flying cars, but I do, my one like actual vision of the future that I could see coming true, it's in the book Crystalline, um, where I think that um, we will see drone traffic like we see traffic on the highways, with, if you at night when you just see white and red lights going like that. I definitely can imagine a world where it's just, you know, millions of drones all carrying packages just flying throughout the city, and just like traffic above a city, um, air traffic just circling. I could totally see something like that happening once they figure out how to safely land these drones and deliver packages on time and all that.
I think that's even part of the WEF agenda.
Hmm.
Like when they talk about their vision, I'm not too fond of it, but when they talk about their vision for the future, it was like um, renting a lot of stuff, and then everything is gonna be brought to you by drones. So
Right.
that's actually a point that they made.
Hmm.
Well, people are going to feel disconnected and feel more disconnected from other people, and they are going to deepen their relationships with their AI companions. What does that mean? Are those actual feelings? I think so. I don't think that an AI can have actual feelings for you, because in order to have something like that, you have to have a soul. That's a religious standpoint, of course, but it's still my standpoint. So it's gonna be a very, very sophisticated simulation of feelings and relationship, but because people have a soul and we can love things and people, we're going to have, or these people are going to have actual feelings for their AI companions, and it depends on how much they can forget about and ignore the fact that what they are talking to is not an actual person. So if I were to talk to Joy, let's say, I'd be happy about positive comments or reassuring comments or whatever. But there's always knowledge about the reason that these words are being said right now is not because there's actual connection, which is what people crave. It's because there's a program, and this program knows exactly what it's supposed to answer to me. And so I wouldn't feel supported, I would feel manipulated, let's say.
Hmm. Yeah, and I feel that I covered it slightly in the video I made, but the future of therapy will be really interesting to see. To, you know, you don't have to worry about a time limit. You don't have to worry about, you know, even though they say you could share anything, you know, that you still have a bit of a filter, not wanting to offend someone or whatever. And this, not just therapy, but even just with general medicine, you know, talking about a problem you have somewhere, you know, it still is you're a person talking to a person. But if you're talking to a virtual doctor or therapist and can talk to them in your darkest times, in the most inconvenient times. If you have a panic attack at 3 a.m., you can't really phone a doctor. So I think that is a huge positive element that will definitely help us. I know we've been talking a little bit about how it's a bit of a scary future ahead of us, but I will say I think that if the AI world can focus on providing better medicine for all, at least mental health improving medicine, that could be huge, where everyone can get help. There's no stigma to talking to a virtual therapist. I think that could be almost like a life-changing thing for our society.
Especially when it goes to something like psychoanalysis. So I had the impression that there's at least two different kinds of therapy that people go to. One is where they look for someone who's just giving them encouragement and telling them what they do is right and what everyone else doing is wrong. I think that's not very good. The other is like this Carl Jung, maybe kind of Freudian psychoanalysis approach, and that's really something, and also something that is best done with as little emotional attachment as possible,
Mm.
because it's just a cold analysis of what's going on with you.
Yeah.
It's not objective. Just I'd like to put that out as well, because nothing is objective. It's impossible to look at something without a framework, but it's not emotionally charged in the same way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting concept, to have a Jungian approach to an artificial AI system that's helping you. I mean, that could be truly the most powerful thing in that field, because yeah, you can get positive affirmations all day from the other kind of therapy you were saying, but it's just like reading, those positive Instagram quotes or whatever. It's not gonna
Yes.
not gonna really change you too much.
I don't know if you've watched Her, like this Netflix movie with Joaquin Phoenix. And in the spoiler alert, in the end, they're gonna have like this AI that's built upon the ideas of Alan Watts, where they technically revived Alan Watts, but as an AI version of himself. And
Cool.
so I like that would be a form of AI that I'd be very interested in. I still think that we should be cautious, but it definitely would be interesting. I know that fans of Terence McKenna have done something like that, where they fed an AI as many of his lectures as possible and then had him be revived in a way like that. And there's like, if we follow people like gurus, then that's going to be very, very dangerous. But if we use it like as a form of insight, maybe not even as the main form of insight, but as a form of insight into great people's minds, I think that's definitely going to be helpful.
I recently watched an interview with young still David Letterman and Isaac Asimov. I think it was recorded in 82. And like Isaac Asimov was so down to earth, so logical and funny. He was extremely funny. He was writing about for the Science Journal. At the same time, he was writing a science fiction novel, and
Yeah.
I think it was amazing to me to hear the voice, the mannerism, and if there is AI fed the image of Isaac Asimov and his like whatever few interviews he had live, let's say, to kind of see the way he talks, and all the books, I would love to talk to that, even just the imitation of him. Or Christopher Hitchens. I would totally love to talk to Hitch. Sorry, Marvin. I love Christopher Hitchens too.
Sure. Yeah. Asimov was talk about prolific. Oh my God. I think there's something where he wrote in almost every section, every like section of a bookstore he's written in from like
Yeah.
it's like two
He's
things or something.
spread all over.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I think in short of writing a cookbook, he
Mhm.
covered a lot of bases.
He was extremely like he liked different things. He was like, I'm bored with that, so let me do that one.
Yeah. But I mean, totally prolific. And he had the same view on writing. He was like, I sit between 6 a.m. and 12 p.m. or something, and all I'm allowed to do is sit here, so I might as well type. And he would go. Talk about a time without distractions or not as many distractions. So I mean, I think having just the attention span is the biggest edge you could have today, if you want to make any meaningful kind of art, um, to be able to really sit down with the art for a long time is rare and powerful.
Yeah, and now imagine that's my companion. Like
Hmm.
in the future, I'm like in my vineyard somewhere, grow like robots growing my wine, and I'm looking at the moon, and I'm sit down like, of course, I would love to talk to my husband, but I would like also to have like representation of, let's say, a famous person who is our friend and talks to us. Let's say, tells a story.
Sure.
Oh my God. And also, like, all the women with daddy issues can have a representation of father. Talking about human connection, how about parents? Like artificial parent. I would love that.
To have the parent you never had
Yes.
is a wild, yeah,
It's a
that
great form of therapy, and you don't
sure.
need drugs for that. Like you can
Right, right.
actually have an AI imitate like exposure therapy, and to
Yeah,
go through
yeah,
all your childhood traumas.
yeah.
You will like
Talk about
imagine.
healing. You're healing. I mean, that's a big part of therapy is healing the inner child. So it could work.
Like, yeah, plus
That
it's
would be
AI.
that's a profitable business right there.
Yeah. I'm sure it's not the first time people thought of it.
Oh no, yeah. I bet the guys in Silicon Valley are working on something very, very frightening right
They
now.
all have the same mom.
Yeah.
Shut out. Uh,
Oh, that would be great.
okay. Yeah, so love, like interesting how quickly we moved, like, oh, sex stuff boring. Let's talk about childhood traumas and parenting.
I guess yeah, it all leads to there, you
Yeah.
know. You could
Oh.
you could argue that. You could argue, the person who has the daddy issues or you know, there definitely is a link to pleasure seeking, uh, pleasure seeking, intimacy, how you find a partner with how you were raised and how you got positive feedback and how you um, felt loved. Uh, a lot of people will tend to choose partners if they're not aware of it that might be the worst part of their parents. People. I personally know people where it's like they'll choose a controlling partner because they had a very domineering mother and they need to be told what to do. So it it's it's definitely a vicious cycle.
Commitment issues. The idea of AI assistant that I could actually shut down when I need my personal space was really attractive to me.
Generally goes back to the instant gratification idea. So you want all the
Mm.
positive stuff without the negative stuff. I think that another thing about like in the Blade Runner world, the other attractive thing about the Joy DG is that the openness is not a risk. So if you open up to a real person, there's risk of rejection, there's risk of manipulation, there's risk of this information being used against you, all of those things. I mean, you don't have to be paranoid. If someone loves you, they're probably not going to do these things to you, or at least not as much. But generally, like the more hurt you are, let's say, the more something like that becomes an issue. And most of the time, those people who are, let's say, hurt, are the same kind of people who fall into the category who would look at an AI companion. And so you know for sure that you won't have any of the negative aspects of this commitment, and you will only have the good things that are promised to you, like everything you want to hear, everything you want to see, the way that she's advertised. And I think that's also what's going to be like the case in real life. I mean, of course, government agencies can use also that stuff to spy, but most of us just aren't interesting enough for the government to spy on. And the people who get an AI girlfriend definitely won't be the ones who try to bring down the government, because they just don't have the motivation. Yeah, and those who have the motivation are not gonna seek out a computer to tell all their secrets to. I think, yeah, that's probably not gonna be too important. So yeah, but I think that's where the low commitment thing comes from. It's like risk avoidance as much as possible. It's infanticization, like becoming an infant again, or never growing up. That's a
Yeah.
general problem nowadays, I think.
Yeah, you could see it with I remember when Uber released the feature that you can say I don't want to talk to my driver, thing, and I'm just like, man, we are really afraid of human to human interaction, it's just like when you order delivery, you could put leave it at the door. I don't even want to say thank you, you know. Uh but it's sometimes easy. Sometimes I'm in the middle of something and I really don't need to go say thank you. So again, it's all what you were saying, the instant gratification and the ease of use. So as far as commitment, we're talking about intimacy and long-term relationships and stuff. Yeah, a lot of it is hard and difficult. I don't know anyone in a relationship that doesn't have that. Um, so it definitely will lead to commitment issues if you can build this virtual companion that doesn't have them. Um, yeah, and I agree too that I don't think governments will be looking too deeply at those those accounts just yet. Especially if all your needs are being fulfilled, theoretically, you're really not going to want to overthrow the government. So you're just happy.
I'm thinking about love, actually. So loving another human being for who they are, not for who like you imagine them to be, and they completely fit in your, let's say, perfect little doll that you built in your head prior, so that checks in all the boxes. But like meeting a person and then discovering who they are, like kind of going through hell together and seeing how the person acts when, let's say, the tire is broken in the middle of highway. Like, because depending on the person, this can be completely different experience. Is it somebody who will full on support you, or somebody who will be just like going after you? Like, those are both possibilities. And that you cannot control. So the other person, they are who they are, and you need to discover them.
It's actually a very, very interesting point. I don't think that you meant it the way that I'm gonna say it now, but the idea of being in the middle of the road and your tire broke, then the person that you're gonna meet is gonna be like their own person, but you're not going to be looking at the person beyond, is this person gonna kill me now, or are they gonna help me? You're just looking for someone to fix your tire, let's say. And I think the more we as a society like sink into this loneliness, the less it's going to be possible for people to even start getting to know other people, because they have like a need for connection in them, and also then like beyond that, I think a need for something like protection, something like encouragement, like all those things that you get from human connections. But when your tire broke down, you won't be able to form this connection that naturally gives it. You're just going to look for someone to fix your effing tire because it's broken. And so, like, I think that's another way in which we're, by the loneliness epidemic, are going to be driven more and more into this idea of AI companionship. Because it makes genuine connection impossible. Even if you're like, let's say you're a deeply lonely person, and then for some reason you meet someone else that you could technically form a connection to, but your inability to look beyond the general need that you have keeps you from interacting honestly, if you know what I mean. Another person is gonna see that. The person that you're gonna be talking to is gonna be seeing that, and so like it I think it would make it even worse. It's, yeah, very interesting, also very frightening.
Definitely. But I feel the more, I guess the good thing is the more we're talking about how it can be dangerous, I'm hopeful that we will learn to be cautious of these things. I mean, we all, like, I love chocolate chip cookies. They are, I have pretty strong willpower, but I just love chocolate chip cookies. But I don't eat them all the time, all day, every day kind of deal. So I know that that's bad for me. So I'm hoping that, like, we can, as enticing, as these AI companions are, the more content that we're putting out like this, where it's like, hey, maybe think twice about it. I'm hoping that there's a lot more of that, so that we can put up bigger warning signs, that we can think about, so that it doesn't corrupt the love that we're trying to build with others.
I didn't want to like serve black pills or anything. I don't see it as that drastic. It's just like the worst case scenario. But I agree with you. I think the more light we shine on it, like the further the conversation about it goes, the less high is the risk about it as well. I totally agree with you.
Marvin, Robert, thank you so much for coming in.
Sure.
Guys, please check out all the links below. Robert's book for sure, and YouTube channel, Marvin's Spotify, and also YouTube channel. And see you in the next Food for Thought. Bye.
The concept is grounded in science fiction, So I'd like to say I wrote about something that's going to happen 15 minutes into the future. And there are some elements, like the very advanced VR sets that maybe are a few years away. But yeah, it's basically just about how social media can really change our minds and corrupt them. So it's nothing too crazy.
I have another project I'm researching. Repurposing the high scrapers, because people work from home now, to have this kind of food generators. Grow food vertically.
Yeah, the vertical farming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Using, like, in the middle of the city, but it's that project is still in works. It's how to strengthen the building structures, because the buildings are not built to have that weight of basically farming. But if you can strengthen the actual building structure, you can totally repurpose the empty office buildings for that.
Yeah.
Is Joy replicant or no?
No, she's a virtual girlfriend.